He didn't talk about his boxing training either. If he threw some punches up there, he's a legit boxer, man. You guys should check him out. He got some good uppercuts, some jabs. DQ's got it going on.
Dave?
Hey, Ryan. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. We've talked to you about the red zone, but we haven't talked to you about, I think it's 16 drives so far this season of 10 or more plays. That's an inordinately high number. When you look at that, what are the primary factors? Is it you're not turning it over? What in your execution is allowing you to do it to that level to this point?
I mean, number one, we feel like we're playing really well between the 20s. There's no question about that. Why is that? Each week's a little different. I would say the first thing that I would point to is our third down efficiency. I mean, right now we're playing very well on third down. And the struggles on the red zone, you kind of look at it and you're like, man, we're struggling there. And, okay, but we're doing great on third down. So now the emphasis is red zone, but you don't want to take away from the third down. So that's a little bit of a balancing act. But that would be the first thing, I think. Just the control and the command that Dak has right now of our third down attack is pretty cool. The ball is getting spread around to different people. I'll jump to a play yesterday where we got in a little condensed split and we were running a little crossing routes, and he found Jake Ferguson to the flat. It was third and, let's say, 6 or 7, and he throws a little 2-yard route, right? And, some people are, oh, you can't throw the ball short of the sticks on third down. And Fergie, all he does is slams on the brakes, and Jalen Mills goes running by, and he steps inside, and he goes and gets the first down. And, again, that shows the maturity of Dak going through his progression. The first open receiver gets the ball, like we've talked about in here a bunch, and he puts his foot on the ground and puts the ball right on Fergie's front number. And then that second part of the play, the transition comes alive. So, and then I think, the way we're running the football, I think we're running the football well. I think you look at Tony yesterday, and there were some tight creases. That's a really good run defense. They're really big and physical up front, and the linebackers do a good job. But there were some tight creases that he found and got north and south. And when you're doing that, it allows you to get into a rhythm. And we're a very rhythmic-oriented offense. And when we're on the field and the game starts to the flow of the game, the players feel it. And so we're proud of how well we've been doing it. And now, of course, we know we got to do a better job in the red zone. And like I said, the emphasis is there. I go back to practice, right? It's the importance of practice. Every red zone rep that we have, whether it's just throwing routes on air to the receivers or whether it's an actual red zone period or blitz period, like those are things that we plan out and we emphasize, but at the same time, we're not going to take away from the other things that we're doing really, really well.
Clarence Hill, 4-Star Telegram. Just from an analytic standpoint, when you get down there that much, the red zone naturally come. I mean, you're getting there so much. I don't know if does it revert to this offense gets down there, so eventually those red zone problems are going to take care of themselves because you're down there so much.
I think so, Clarence. I think, we have good players. We have good scheme. We have not executed real well down there. I mean, yesterday, first drive, we go right down the field, and then, we run into each other. That doesn't happen very often. And those are the things that we have to get rid of, those plays. And when you get down there, again, there's a bright light that, we're struggling offense. We don't. It's gonna flip. There's ebb and flow in everything that we do, and again, we feel very comfortable about what we're doing from a schematical standpoint with our weapons, but we do have to just clean up the execution. Last week it was penalties. We put ourselves behind the sticks. This weekend we had some self-inflicted wounds where we didn't do our job, collectively together. And so you get back to the emphasis of practice. And again, like I said, really making the emphasis of, okay, hey, from the time we get out there on the field, from the walkthrough of the red zone, from the routes on air to into the periods to move the ball, all those things are, again, things that we want to just focus on. And again, usually when we practice well, we play well. And so that's what the expectation is this week.
Yeah, when you move the ball like that, that's an emphasis indicating that there's not a problem with what you're doing on offense.
No question. Yeah, we're very comfortable with what we're doing. Again, we wish that we were finishing some of those 10-plus play drives. But again, it's one of those situations too where you get down there and you got a big lead, and maybe you might go for it in some situations, but when you've got the big lead like that, it's, hey, take the points, defense is playing great. All those things are certainly talked about on the headset during the course of the game.
Todd Archer, the ESPN, when you're playing a vision defense, where does patience rank at the top of the list for a quarterback? Or maybe that's every week, I don't know.
Yeah, well, great use of the term because it is the vision defense. We've seen a bunch of them. We'll see another one this week. I just think I think it's critical. I think Dak is, he's just playing at a real high level right now. He's seeing it well. Again, it's not just him. Again, we talked a little bit last week about the spacing and the landmarks and getting pieces to where they're supposed to be, whether it's inside edge of the numbers or in between the hashes or outside the numbers, all those landmarks, that's what comes into play. But taking what they give you, throwing the ball underneath. I mean, basically they were playing a version of that vision defense on the third down conversion that I was talking about with Fergie, taking the first open receiver, throwing the completion, letting those guys do their work. But, you watched that game yesterday, and there was a little play pass we ran late in the first quarter, and they all punched out, right? They got deep, and they were trying to take away Brandon Cooks and CD. We were running a little two-man combination with those two guys, and he checked it down, to Rico. And Rico splits two defenders, gets a couple extra yards. First play of the game, same type thing. Little play-action pass. The linebackers punch out. They get their depth. They've got vision on Dak. What's he do? Okay, he says, hey, they're taking away. Let me check it down. Tony does the same type thing. So that's when I think you see a quarterback who's bought into the fact of, hey, go through my progression, know where the backs are. We have a thing that we talk about which is called flare control reminders. It goes back 100 years to Tom Rathman and Bill Walsh. And, Mike tells the story, being around Montana, and like Tom Rathman would always tell the quarterback, like the last thing he'd say, hey, slow shoot, slow shoot. And sometimes, the quarterbacks, they don't even act like they hear it, but they do. And it's a reminder to the quarterback of where your checkdowns are, because as you're reading a progression, let's say I'm reading a weak side triangle and I'm reading my movement key, just that little thing of knowing, hey, I'm running a burst or whatever that flare control is, it's a cool reminder to him of where that guy is, because there's so much stuff happening in front of the QBs that those flare control reminders do help. And we do check down drill almost every day, just because what happens is when there's line movements and stunts up front, which we see each and every week, the entry point of the back is different. Let's say he's designed to go into the A gap. Sometimes he gets pushed wider into the B gap, or sometimes even the C gap, and so the check down feels different to the QB. So it takes a ton of reps of just practice. And again, I think we're utilizing that stuff well, but we also have backs that can do something with it. When you check the ball down to our backs, it's not a give up. It's a chance for an explosive because they're so talented.
Son.
Saw use of the Athletic. Brian, there's often talk about confidence, and we saw Peyton drop a touchdown in the first game, rain and all that stuff. With Luke had an opportunity on the first drive as well. How do you look at the confidence of Dak having confidence in them and them having confidence in themselves next time around, that if that situation does arise, Dak has the confidence to go to them and they have the confidence to make the play?
Yeah, I don't think there's zero question that Dak has confidence in all the guys who are out there. It was a hell of a throw. It would have been a great catch. I think Scooney will make that catch in the future. Dak put it in the perfect spot. They were playing a split safety shell defense, and he kind of got on top of the mic. And, if you watch again, I'm always talking about the quarterback's feet, but if you watch Dak, he comes back and off his fifth step without a hitch, he puts his foot in the ground and he throws the laser beam up high and away, which shows you that there's trust there. Again, tough catch. Scooney can make it. He will make it. But, again, I just think it goes back to like game one, the weather and the Giants and things like that. Now you look at how a guy like Jake Ferguson's coming along. He is playing such good football for us right now. And, again, the balls, like the seam ball he catches yesterday. He catches a seam up the left numbers, and Dak's actually a little bit late to it. He kind of lost his underneath defender, and he kind of led him a little bit too much, and the safety comes out of the middle field and knocks the hell out of him. But just like for every drop you have, you make a play like that, and we're always constantly pointing that stuff out. Hey, we miss throws as quarterbacks all the time. They don't lose confidence in us as the throwers, and so it works together. But we make them make those throws and catches in practice. Like when you guys watch our practice, rarely do we just have them go and just throw it from me to you. It's okay, hey, it's a back shoulder throw, it's a up high crossbar type throw. Those are the things that you got to work on, because when you get to this level, the windows are that small. And so zero question in our confidence in one another, but it would have been awesome for Scooney to pull that one down, and I think he will next time for sure.
Yeah.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com, Brian. Through the first 4 weeks, just by the nature of how each of these games have gone, 3 blowouts and then 1 game where the offensive system was just adjusted quite a bit, do you feel like there's an abnormal amount of unscouted looks going into Week 5 compared to where you've been at Week 5 as the previous seasons?
You know, that's a good question. You know, each year is different. You know, I would say that that's definitely a possibility. I think when you go against this opponent we're getting ready to go against, that, you know, they do what they do. They don't change very often. I feel like I know them really well. I know how talented they are from being in the division with them for 3 years when I was in Seattle. They're just a really, really disciplined group. It is a good benefit for us. If you look at 2 weeks ago, right, we played the Jets, you know, with Robert Saleh, very similar scheme, you know, just that 4-3 penetrating defensive front. But each week is different. And then, of course, when you throw injuries into it, like Arizona, you know, they did adjust some, you know, based on a couple of our linemen were out, so they adjusted, did some things, covered the core and things like that. But that's the cool part, you know, of the chess match of what we get to do. Like, you have an anticipation going into a game plan of what you're going to see, and then there's always those conversations during the first quarter, second quarter, and then really the biggest changes happen at halftime. You come in, you've kind of dissected the first 30 minutes, you know what's working, you know what's not working, you know where you stand from, you know, hey, how's the run game working, what runs are working, and the conversation at halftime, it's actually, it's unfortunate that you guys can't hear the things that go on in there. It's 12 minutes of madness and craziness, and there's a lot of things being talked about, but usually when you're playing well, it's short and quick, and when you're struggling a little bit, you're making more adjustments. But the cool thing about our group is we go in as coaches and we make the adjustments and kind of come up with the second half openers, but it's so cool to go out and to put eyes on our veteran players in our unit and how calm they are. So Arizona, they were no different than they were yesterday. They were no different than they were against the Jets and against the Giants, right? They're just sitting there waiting for, hey, what are the answers? What's the direction? Give us the direction. And I think we speak to confidence all the time. That's why this is a very confident group, because when you make the adjustments, they're like, yep, got it, easy, you know. And so that's cool for me as a coach and the staff to, when you make those changes, they don't blink. And that gives us that confidence as staff to know that we got the right guys and we're doing the right things.
John Machota, The Athletic. Last year, the offense, you know, struggled against San Francisco in the loss. How much are you just looking forward to your group just going against them, seeing where you guys stand against you know, a loaded defense like that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, John, it's cool because like we go against a loaded defense every day in practice, and like I said, this is a very, very talented group we're going to go up against this week, and you know, I haven't been here for the last 3 years, but like I said, I do know them very well, and you know, Fred Warner's a dynamic player. I remember when he was a rookie running around, I think it was number 48 when we were in Seattle in 18, and to see him now and the command that he has. But you live for those opportunities. It's like when we get a chance to go against our defense and have to block Micah and D-Law and throw on Gilly and Trayvon and go against, you know, J.K. and those guys. Like you live for those opportunities. It's another game. It's a big game. It's the NFC. Two really good football teams going against each other that know each other well. But our guys will be excited about this opportunity to go up against a really good defense that does what they do. And you know, we've had some fun battles both here with the Cowboys and in Seattle, and it should be a hell of a game.
Joey.
Joe White, Lone Star Live. The defense leads the league in takeaways. San Francisco, just like you guys, only have one giveaway this year. I guess from a game plan perspective, how might that affect your game plan, knowing that the likelihood of them turning the ball over a lot is not going to be there?
Yeah, again, you know, we try to really focus on what we do. Our job is to obviously take care of the football and protect the football. You know, we've done that in 3 of the 4 games this year. You know, when you play good teams, which New England's the same way, they generally don't turn it over very often, and they create a lot of turnovers. You know, when you have a defense like ours that does that, we kind of feed off that. But we know that ball security will play a huge impact on the outcome of this game. And it doesn't mean you worry about it. Doesn't mean you stress about it. You emphasize it. You practice it. You talk about it. But, you know, our guys are very comfortable handling the football, and Dak's making great decisions, seeing things well. And so I do think the team that protects the football the best will probably win the game.
Michael.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. How would you describe describe the level at which Tyler Smith is currently playing, and what's the most important part of where he's taking his game?
Fundamentals, for sure. You talk about a guy that, for lots of reasons, was moved around last year. You see him settling into playing guard. Everything happens really fast in there. It's very different than playing on the edge. The edge, you deal with different types of athletes, linear athletes and speed and space and all that stuff. But inside, he's just so strong and powerful. There was a play in practice last week where literally he was drive blocking the 3 technique and he kind of got turned, and it's crazy. He went down to a knee and popped right back up and just kept going. Like, it was just one of the crazier things I've seen. And he's playing with tighter hands right now. Again, out in space, you have more time as a tackle to adjust your hands and fix your hands. Whereas if you miss with your hands inside as a guard because of the space, everything's so much closer. It's harder because they get on your edges. But his strength, his intensity, his power, he's playing at a high level, and he's just scratching the surface, Michael. I mean, it's the fundamentals, and his base is not always perfect. His footwork's not always perfect, but he's just such a great athlete and such a great competitor that, he's just playing terrific and got a chance to be just a dominant guard in this league for a long time.
Aisha Wilson, DallasCowboys.com. You talked about, Coach, how you folks are moving down the field and, Dak taking a check down and it's there. But you were able to get some big chunk plays yesterday from your receivers, Jalen Tolbert, CeeDee Lamb, those gentlemen. How important is that moving forward? And just, do you get some confidence from that to move forward to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, number one, I thought JT played his best game as a Cowboy yesterday. I think he was in the 4th play of the game. And Dak threw a little stop route there to him. He spun out and had a big play. And I think that speaks again to, like, the pieces. It doesn't matter who's in the game. Like, Dak's going to turn it loose. He's going to take his read and go through it. Look, it's hard to go 80 yards in this league and score touchdowns. It's hard. You need chunk plays, but you also have to read the progression and know what's going on and understand how they're playing us. We've got weapons, and people respect us for that. But, like, I thought, they lost Gonzalez yesterday, and so we had a thought of what they might do. We called the play. They adjusted. They did something different than what we thought, and Dak went right to the matchup that we felt good about with CeeDee out there on an island and made a great throw. And I think that shows you the power of this offense, that we can take advantage of. Not a mistake. It wasn't a mistake for them. I mean, they had their call based on the down and distance stuff like that. But to take advantage of those matchups is really cool to see, and it speaks to how he's seeing it. And then, I mean, again, just I thought, Brandon yesterday, I mean, Cooks he impacted the game a ton. I mean, with and without the ball. I mean, he's just so fast, and they have to respect him. And, when we're out there running around full speed, we're pretty fast. And so it's cool to put people on notice because of that.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. What does it say about your group that you've been able to juggle your offensive line and you seem to have some success despite the different combinations you've had?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to use this moment to talk about Chuma. Chuma, just the things we've asked him to do, go play left tackle in this league is hard. He's done it before, obviously, but like yesterday, if you watch the length that he played with, the way he punched, I mean, again, we wanted to neutralize Judon. That was a big part of the game plan yesterday, and he got matched up on him a bunch. And I think, Matthew had 1 tackle, I think, a couple hits, because he's a great player. But Chuma played with length, and he punched well, and he recovered, and there were some awesome finishes that he did. So, again, it's going to be nice to get them all back at some point. Maybe it's this week. We'll see. But the guys that have been called to duty, whether it was Brock Hoffman, whether it was Chuma, we truly do believe that they're going to go in and play at a high level, and that's the culture that we've kind of built here. It's the next man up, and we know injuries are part of the game. And but Chuma played really, really well yesterday, and he really has for the last couple games. So excited about the development of him and TJ Bass and all those guys that are getting reps and having to, get thrown into those opportunities and to maximize in school.
Brad.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. What's Lipke's upside?
He's just it's huge, to be honest with you, just because you can do so many things with him. You don't realize what a good runner he is. Like, the touchdown run that he had, that was really a nice run. If you go back to the Arizona game, we ran a little dive play on short yardage, and we kind of booked the 3 technique. He kind of looped out, and we weren't expecting it, and was free in the hole, and he just kind of stepped around him. But, you can see him catch the football out of the backfield. He's done a nice job with that. But, you can't sleep on him as a runner, and very smart. He can handle all the protection stuff for us if we need him to. So we can move him around, put him in different spots. The thing that we haven't done with him that, he's shown that he can do in practice is he can play tight end. He can do different things like that. So we want to move him around and put him in different spots. But we got to work on his touchdown celebration, because he first touchdown in the league and he leaves the ball. Dak obviously had the wherewithal to go pick it up and say, hey, buddy, you might want to keep this. So, but I think he feels like he's going to have a lot more of those. So maybe that's why he left it out there. So, but a cool piece, really cool piece, exciting piece for us moving forward.
Similar to how we talked last week about when he was probably spending some late nights with the defensive staff in New England last week.
Yeah.
Do you talk to Trey at all without having to get too much into it? Do you talk to Trey at all this week?
Yeah. Trey knows a little bit about what they're doing. Yeah, the cool thing is, like I said, the team knows them well. I know them well from being in Seattle. Trey knows them well, but like last week, it's kind of in good fun and humor. Like we all use pieces that we have in place, but we don't go too far into it. We can know exactly what they're going to do because they don't do too much, and they're still really, really tough to go against just because they're so talented. The play style that they have, the cool thing with San Francisco, the play styles never change. It doesn't matter who the coordinator is, whether it's D'Amico, Robert, it doesn't matter. With Steve coming in there, their play style is a lot like our defensive play style and how we try to play offensively. It's physical and up-tempo, and they run and they hit, and that's way more important than the scheme that they run. So we'll definitely talk to Trey. He knows a lot of the pieces going against them in practice, but it doesn't always help, as we learned yesterday.
When you're talking about Tyler, you said he'd be a dominant guard for a long time. Is that his long-term position?
Never know. Right now it is. I think I maybe should have said he could be a dominant player on the offensive line. But, truly to move a guy from left guard to left tackle back to left guard, for him to be able to do that and play at this level is fascinating. And so, what I love about Tyler, I love how much he loves football. He loves football, and he practices the right way. And so, he's quickly, and we've got a very veteran group, but he's quickly becoming one of the leaders of the offensive line. And for a second-year player, they respect the hell out of him. Our entire team, but that room, Zach and Tyron and Tyler Biotis, they respect the hell out of Tyler because he's so talented, and he is just getting better and better, and he works at it. And so it's cool to see.
Patrick.
Hey, Brian. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Michael Gallup kind of struggled in the first 2 weeks to kind of get going, really come on strong these last 2 games. Yesterday, he had one of the better rates of separation, 44 yards after the catch. Is this you guys having a concerted effort to get him involved, or is this just the organic sort of working out the kinks in the Texas Coast offense?
No, I think, some of it's coverage based. He's done something every game that's been very positive. I think last week you saw in Arizona the big play potential and things like that. Early in the game, second or third play yesterday, right? Dak gets moved off the spot, and he's sitting in the perfect spot in the void. And so him with Dak and the timing and the relationship and the trust was really cool to see. But, MG is a big-time talent, and his size, speed is really hard for defenses to match up against. And I just think you're seeing him play with a lot of confidence right now. And look, all these guys feed off getting touches. They all do. That's never changed. I've never been around a receiver that didn't want the football. I've been yelled at by more receivers in my 24 years in the league than you can imagine. And usually the ones that yell are the really, really good players. And so when they yell, you're like, it's probably a good idea to get you a touch. MG doesn't do that. He just goes about his business. But, again, I just, I think it shows when we're at full strength and we got all our guys out there moving. It's just you got to kind of pick your poison and look and say, okay, hey, we're going to take CD away, or we're going to stop the run, or hey, we're going to do this. That's where we can be a tough matchup for people.